Before we continue, as I've now made config.php and taken the sort of usernames and passwords out, I really need to check that my database is still working properly, and I can see that it is because this page is updating every 10 seconds. If it wasn't, I'd be getting an error message now. If I click on home, I've still got, well, if I add another one to it, let's see, Billy, how are you? Post that. New comment added successfully. If I go back and hit view, I should be getting, there we go. If the config.php isn't working, you'll get error messages. So if that happens, then go back over your work, carefully look at that line, make sure you've spelt it correctly and used the correct speech marks, and you've got a semicolon at the end of the line, and just check your PHP file, make sure you've copied the correct lines, and that you've started with the question mark and PHP and ended with the question mark as well. So if you've done all that and it's working, that's fine. Next thing we're going to do is actually start tidying this up. This isn't very pleasant at the moment. There's a better way that we can do this. I'm going to have a table, a striped table, so that all of the names and the comments are in the table, rather like a spreadsheet. And we're also going to change that a bit later on to be the card system that you may have already seen. But to begin with, let's do a table so you can choose which one you prefer, and at least you'll have seen two ways of doing things. And everything that we do is going to be in the view file. And in the view file, at the moment, I'm only considering these lines here. I'm going to extend them, and this will probably be at least 2 videos to manage this. I'll start, I think, with setting up the table and the heading, and then do the body of the table afterwards. That will become more clear to you when we get there. But what's happening at the moment is we've got a container, a box, which starts there. Let me just highlight that div. Oh, the end div didn't highlight because I've gone too far. There we go. The end div, start and end. And at the moment it's a container, and I don't want it to be a container. I want it to be more of a table. So we're going to lose this container fairly shortly. But every time, this is a loop, I should say, this while loop. Every time through the loop, it's picking up one record from the database and displaying it. So it's displaying the name, then it's displaying the comment. And it's looping again, getting the next name, getting the next comment. So actually, I'm going to remove this, and it might update as you see it, because remember, it's on auto update every 10 seconds. So if I save it, that's going to update. You'll see the background change at some point because I've taken that container out. Now, there we go. I'm going to write HTML. So what I'm going to be doing really is HTML, but I'm going to do it inside this PHP container here. Okay? So there's the start and there's the end. And this means I've got to write in the language called PHP. And if I do that, then all my HTML elements, my tags, are going to be in grey. I'm going to lose all of the wonderful colour that I have to tell me that I've made a mistake. So I'm going to have to be really careful with what I do. So let's go back over what I've done so far. I've deleted the container row and I've deleted the end div off here, because I don't want them in a container anymore. I want them in a table. Now, the table is set up. There's going to be a large table. It's like saying, give me a spreadsheet. Then it's going to have the names of the fields, such as name and comment, across the top. And then we're going to have a load of rows, which is going to be all of this data that we're doing. First, I'm going to load up W3 schools. And I'm going to type bootstrap 4, and I'm going to hit table. Bootstrap 4 tables. Now, I'm only loading this up so that if you need to go anywhere to find out what I'm doing, then the information will be in here. So I think somewhere down at the bottom we will get an example. These are the kinds of things that I want to do. So different coloured rows with our data in, and this is called a table header with our field names in. So that's going to be our first attempt at it. So if we go back to our web page, I'm going to do the table headings and I'll deal with the data, the body, later. So what's happening here is if I've got some data returned, in other words, it's not empty, there's more than 0 items in my table, then I need to set up a table, and I'm going to set it up here. So I need to type echo, and I like to do this, I like to do the speech marks and the semicolon at the end before I try and put anything that I'm going to print onto the screen or echo onto the screen. Just helps me not make a mistake and leave one out. So this is where I'm going to have my div this time, and I don't want it to be a container. This time I want the item, the class, to be equal to, and that's 2 single speech marks there, a table, and I want it to be responsive. That means it's going to change its size depending on whether it's on a phone or on a computer, and I want to keep it small. I don't want it the full width of the screen. And again, if you need to see that, you'll find those details in here somewhere. Okay, it will talk about table responsive at some point. So that's the start, and obviously if I've got a starting div, I need an ending div, and I actually need that to come after my loop. So this while, from the red item there to the red item there, the curly braces, everything in there is going to keep looping. So the more records I've got, the more times it's going to go round that loop. When it's read the very last one, it's going to fall out of that loop and come down to here, and that is obviously where I want the end of my table to be, and in fact the end of my div. If you remember, the div is a kind of container. So now I'm going to set up the table. So that's my next line after I've set up the container for it. Echo, and I'm going to say I want a table. Oh, I seem to have made lots of mistakes here. Don't forget, these are HTML. There we go, silly me. That's better. I want a table, but I want it striped. So I need to put in table stripe. That will give me that stripy pattern that we had. And that is a class. Not doing very well this evening. Too much going on. There we go. Table striped. So that will now give me a table, and what I need to do is have another closing element. So I'm going to go above my closing div and echo the end of my table. So that's saying where the end of my table is. That's where the start of my table is. So as we saw in here, Bootstrap, let's see if I can find it again. Well, anyone will do, but let's take a look at the striped rows. And there we go. No, a bit further down. These stripy rows. The very first line I want is sort of just this, with the name and comment in, but to be dark with white writing. So Bootstrap will take care of that for me, but I have to say exactly what I want. So that is called a table header. So if I do my echo, and a table header is just T-head. And again, I need to set it, the class, and the class is what gives me the style. I need to set it to be a dark one. Table head dark. And again, I've done it. I am not thinking tonight. Missed out the angle brackets. And before I start writing all my data to the table, which will be the body of the table, where John Doe is, Mary Mo and Julie Dooley, I need to end my head. So echo remember the brackets, end the table header. So I'm just going to do the table header and then stop the video and move on to the next one. So inside the head. Now each item is called a row. So I need to echo a table row. And there's two bits to this. It's a little bit awkward. So this is talking about the row in its entirety. And I need to have or know where the end of my row is. End table row. Now, to put each of these headers in, and I've only got two, this one's got three, first name, last name and email. I've only got two, which are going to be name and comment. I need to specify that in this table row. So I'm going to echo, and this time I'm going to put TH for header, and I'm going to put what the header is going to be. So the first one's going to be name, and I'm going to end that table header. That's it. And then I want a second table header with the word comment in it, which will give me the data at the top of my table. So table header, comment, end table header. And that's it. That's set up my dark row with name and comment, and just two of them. If I wanted a third one, like email, I would have to have a third table header here. That's it for this one. I'm going to save it. There's not much point in running it. I don't know whether it will run. Let's just take a look at comments, see what happens. It's going to update in about 10 seconds. I'm not expecting it to work really well because I haven't changed this piece down the bottom. It's had a play, so it's okay. So there's my table after my work. Right, so next video we'll deal with the body and we'll put these comments into our table.